I keep having dreams about a stranger, nights filled with illicit, impossible pleasure. But every time I wake up, his name slips away like smoke. 6 months later, I finally found him. The good news? He's just as devastatingly handsome as he is in my dreams. The bad news? He's my boyfriend's older brother. Tyler didn't ask, he told me. He was dragging me back to his family estate for the holidays. Dress hot. Show some skin, he said, looking at me like I was a prop. It's winter, Tyler. I'll freeze to death, I snapped. He shrugged, completely unbothered. You got a problem with it? Then we break up. He knew I wouldn't leave. He knew he had me by the throat. Or rather, by the wallet. I went quiet for a beat. I don't have money for new clothes. Fixed, he said, already bored. He pulled out his phone, tapped a few times, and 50 grand landed in my account. Then he waved me off like a nuisance. Take it. I'm gaming. Get out of my face. I lowered my eyes and played the obedient girlfriend he thought I was, then walked out, only to pause in the hallway when I heard his voice rise through his headset. Yeah, I'm bringing her home. Tiffany's gonna lose her mind when she sees this, Tyler laughed. Me like her? Hell no. I only picked this chick to mess with Tiffany. You think I'd actually date a charity case like her? Please. It's all for show. His friends howled. I never took Tiffany home in 4 years, Tyler went on, but I'm taking this girl after 1 month. That's gonna sting. Don't worry, my big brother runs the show at home anyway. Then he added, smug and careless, and her? She's exactly the kind of trashy gold digger my brother hates most. A month ago, Tyler had zeroed in on me out of nowhere, demanding we date. Everyone on campus knew he'd just split with his high school sweetheart. Picking me up was either a rebound or a stunt. Either way, there wasn't an ounce of real feeling in his stacks of cash. Tyler's family owns a massive conglomerate listed on the NYSE. His older brother runs the empire. Tyler was the kind of guy who burned money on supercars and bottle service, and still tossed enough spare change to cover my mom's medical bills. Tyler didn't know that part. He thought I was hopelessly in love with his charming personality. Yeah. Right. Tyler booked first class, obviously. The second we boarded, he slapped on noise-canceling headphones. Do not disturb, he muttered. Fine by me. I drifted off almost immediately. And then it hit, the familiar heat washing over me, like my body remembered something my brain refused to keep. I was curled against a man's hard chest, my skin burning in that terrifyingly vivid way. How many times this month? He murmured, amused. Can't get enough, can you? His thumb brushed my lips, swollen from his kisses in a way that made my breath catch. You look beautiful today, he said softly. Where are you going? Going to meet my boyfriend's family, I whispered, like the answer mattered. His expression shifted. You have a boyfriend? I pouted, half bratty even in the dream. Yeah. The air changed. He went quiet. I looked up, searching his face. Okay? Why are you acting like that? His voice was deep and calm, but something sharp hid under it. A boyfriend? No, I said quickly, confused by the sudden chill. Why am I not satisfying you? Oh, you satisfy me, he said, almost too smoothly. You satisfy me too much. But who settles down with a dream? When I woke up, I had nothing. Not a name. Not a face I could place. Just the sensation, heat, touch, hunger, that felt disturbingly real. Maybe that was why he didn't speak again. Like I'd said something that landed wrong. The jolt of the landing gear hitting the runway snapped me awake. Tyler was staring at me, frowning. Chloe. Are you okay? You're sweating. I wiped my forehead. I'm fine. That dream again. It started 6 months ago, this stranger appearing in my sleep like he'd always been there. At first it was normal, like the sort of romantic nonsense you laugh about with friends. Then I realized he looked like he'd been sculpted. And my dreams stopped pretending to be innocent. I didn't know who he was. Every time I asked his name, I'd forget it the second I woke up. Only the feeling stayed. I even saw a therapist. Fantasies are normal, she'd said. You're young and repressed. Makes sense. I'd never even held a guy's hand in real life. Tyler thought I was beneath him and I was just here for the paycheck, so we maintained a weird, distant, almost clinical relationship. Tyler kept staring. Your face is red. If he knew why, he'd probably collapse. It's warm in here, I lied, touching my cheeks. Have you seriously never been on a plane before? Hillbilly, he sneered. Yeah. First time, I said plainly. Thanks for the ride, Tyler. I was too honest. It killed his urge to mock me. A moment later, he awkwardly reached up and adjusted the air vent above my seat. He froze like he couldn't believe he'd just done something vaguely decent. Thanks, I said, looking out the window, not giving him the reaction he wanted. At baggage claim, Tyler wandered off to take a call. Did you invite Tiffany? Good. See you guys in a few days, he said, then scoffed. My girlfriend? Please. I'm dumping her the second Tiffany sees us together. He hung up fast when he noticed me. Chloe, he said, suddenly serious. One rule. Yeah? My parents are chill. But watch out for my brother. Why? Does he eat people? Tyler stared at me like I'd grown a second head. I used to just nod and smile like a good little doll. Now that my savings account was almost full, my acting skills were slipping. My brother has a stick up his ass, Tyler muttered. He's dominant. Controlling. What he says goes. Even my parents don't push him. Just stay out of his way. Tyler was a chaotic brat, but the fear in his voice was real. Understood, I said, barely caring. You don't look happy about going to my mansion, he complained. I'm thrilled, I said flatly. The driver took us to the estate. It was massive, more like a private world than a house. Tyler's parents were surprisingly nice, asking about my major and my life with polite curiosity. Then right before dinner, he walked in. Ethan. Tyler lost all his swagger so fast it was almost funny. He stood up straight like a kid caught cheating. Hey Ethan. Ethan's gaze flicked over him. How was the flight? The voice. Cool. Indifferent. Smooth like something carved and polished. It sent a shiver down my spine so hard my toes curled. I turned around. And my breath stopped. It was him. The man from my dreams. Ethan, Tyler said quickly, too quickly, this is my girlfriend. Chloe. Ethan's gaze swept over my face, unreadable. Welcome. He looked exactly like the dream, those heavy-lidded eyes, cold and calm like he never had to try. He loosened his tie and took a sip of water. A single drop rolled down his throat and disappeared under his collar, darkening the fabric just enough to make my brain short-circuit for half a second. Then he sat. And the room quieted like everyone had been waiting for him to decide what the atmosphere would be. Tyler looked like he wanted to vanish. Dinner moved on. Eventually, the conversation drifted to me. Chloe, Tyler's mom said kindly, Tyler tells us you've never dated before. That's right, I said. Tyler is my first. Oh, wow, she said, genuinely surprised. A pretty girl like you. That's rare these days. I swallowed, forcing my eyes away from Ethan. He was cutting his steak like he hadn't heard a word. Right. He didn't know me. It was one-sided. A fantasy. Maybe I'd seen his face in a business magazine and my subconscious decided to ruin my life. I straightened my shoulders and played my role. I'm lucky to have Tyler, I said brightly. He's famous on campus. I've admired him since freshman year. Tyler's mom smiled. Tyler is a bit wild, but he's a good kid. Chloe, you're a scholar. Keep him in check for us. Don't worry, I said sweetly. I really like Tyler. No. I really like the help you're about to give my mom. Then I felt it, like heat pressing against my skin. A stare. I looked up. Ethan was typing on his phone, not looking at me at all. And yet I felt it anyway, like he was reading me without moving a muscle. I stayed at the estate for a few days. Ethan was rarely home, and when we crossed paths, he gave me polite, distant nods. Total stranger. It convinced me even more, my dreams were just my brain being weird. Then the day to meet Tiffany approached. Tyler hated my clothes, so he had someone buy me something sexy. A skimpy slip dress. In the middle of winter. He made me put it on for photos. The house was warm, but the dress might as well have been tissue paper. I was shivering while Tyler obsessed over angles and lighting, desperate to make his ex jealous. The next morning, I woke up burning with fever. Tyler didn't care. He left to get drunk with his buddies anyway. Of all the times, I heard him complaining into his phone as he headed out. She better not embarrass me in front of Tiffany. You got any backup girls, just in case? My throat felt raw, like I'd swallowed sand. My head floated between reality and something hazy, unfocused. I stumbled out of bed to get water. The study door across the hall was open. I looked up. Ethan was inside. Tyler was out. His parents were out. Ethan should have been at work. So there was only one explanation. I was dreaming again. Good. If it was a dream, I didn't have to behave. I stumbled into the room and collapsed into his arms, half whining, half breathless. I feel terrible. He froze for a second, then steadied me like it was instinct. Did you take medicine? Yeah. Then rest. I clung to him anyway, refusing to let go. I nuzzled against his neck, breathing him in like my body had been searching for him for months. I met a guy who looks exactly like you, I murmured. Is that so? But I know he isn't you. His tone sharpened slightly. How can you tell? Because you're a dream, I said, small and certain. And the second I see this little mole on your collarbone, I know I'm asleep. Without thinking, I reached up and undid a button on his shirt. My fingers found it, an ink-black mole near his collarbone. A spot I knew too well from 6 months of forbidden, impossible fantasies. Ethan went still. His voice dropped, dangerous and quiet. How do you know about that? My entire brain slammed into a wall. The fever haze cracked. I pinched my thigh hard. Pain, sharp, real. My stomach turned to ice. This wasn't a dream. This was reality. And I was sitting in Ethan's lap in my pajamas, his shirt half open under my hands, staring into eyes that were suddenly much darker than before. Chloe, he whispered, my name wrapped in something low and rough that made my skin prickle. I spent 6 months hearing you in my sleep. My breath caught. What? Finally, I knew his name. And the horrifying part was, he knew mine. A soft knock sounded at the door. Ethan? Tyler's voice. You in there? My blood went cold. Have you seen my girlfriend? Why was he back so early? Bro? Tyler added, closer now. I heard Chloe. Dead silence. No answer. I'm coming in. The doorknob turned. The doorknob didn't get far. Ethan moved like a switch flipped, calm, controlled, terrifyingly efficient. He shifted me off his lap, set me on my feet, and guided me behind the heavy desk like he was placing a fragile object somewhere safe. Stay, he murmured. Not a request. A command. Then he straightened his shirt with one hand, reached for his laptop with the other, and called out, voice perfectly even. Yeah. The door opened. Tyler leaned in, scanning the room with the restless, suspicious look of someone who'd never trusted silence a day in his life. Oh. His eyes landed on Ethan. You're here. Ethan didn't look up. It's my house. Tyler scoffed, trying to play it cool. Whatever. Have you seen Chloe? No. Tyler's gaze flicked around, like he could smell guilt in the air. For a second, I thought he'd come farther in, that he'd walk right past the desk, that he'd find me crouched there with my heart trying to climb out of my throat. But Ethan finally lifted his eyes. Just one look. Tyler actually paused. Like his body remembered every childhood moment where Ethan's tone meant stop, and stopping was the smartest thing you could do. Tyler grumbled, fine. I'll find her, and backed out. The door shut. I didn't breathe until it clicked. Ethan turned to me slowly, his gaze pinning me in place even from across the room. That wasn't a dream, I whispered, like saying it out loud would make it real enough to destroy me. His expression barely changed, but something in his eyes did, something sharp and focused, like he'd finally found the missing piece to a puzzle that had been haunting him. No, he said. It wasn't. My cheeks were still burning, my fever still buzzing through my skin, but the heat I felt now had nothing to do with sickness. I didn't mean to, I started. You called me husband. The words hit like a slap. I stared at him, mortified. What? His mouth twitched, almost a smile, except it wasn't soft. It was dangerous in a quiet way. You didn't even hesitate, he said. Like you've said it 1,000 times. I swallowed so hard it hurt. I thought I was delirious. Maybe you were. His gaze lowered to my hand, where my fingers had touched him. But you knew things you shouldn't know. My pulse spiked again, because he was right. I knew that mole. I knew the exact way his voice sounded when it went low. I knew the shape of a room I'd never seen in real life. And in the next breath, I realized something that made my stomach drop. I'd seen it. In my sleep. In another time. Because that night, when I finally collapsed into bed and my fever dragged me under, I didn't dream of a stranger. I dreamed of 5 years from now. I was in a bedroom I'd never stepped into awake, soft colors, delicate patterns, everything oddly me. Like someone had built a space around my taste, my comfort, my quiet little preferences. And Ethan was there. Not in a suit this time. Not cold and distant like the man who ran an empire. He was older, still impossibly handsome, but warmer in the way he moved, like he belonged next to me. He called me baby like it was normal. Like it had always been normal. Like I was his. He wrapped an arm around my waist from behind, his mouth brushing my neck, his breath sending shivers down my spine. I tensed out of instinct and blurted the first thing my flustered brain could reach for. Ethan, don't. He chuckled, the sound vibrating against my skin. You've been calling me brother in your sleep again. My face went so hot in the dream I wanted to sink through the floor. What? He turned me around, forehead resting lightly against mine. His voice dropped into that dark, velvety tone that made my thoughts slip. Tell me, he murmured. Why do you keep doing that? Because in real life, you're my boyfriend's older brother. Because in real life, I'm barely a person to your brother, just a prop with a price tag. Because in real life, the only thing I've ever done is hold Tyler's hand, and even that felt like I was borrowing someone else's life. But in the dream, no. In the future. I looked up at the wall and froze. There, framed and perfectly lit, was a wedding photo. Me. In white. Hair pinned up, hands resting over Ethan's, smiling like a girl who still believed in happy endings. Ethan stood behind me in a tailored suit, elegant and composed, his head tilted down toward mine in a possessive, protective way that made my chest ache. It wasn't romantic fantasy. It looked real. Why are we, I started, voice shaking. Why are we married? Ethan lifted a brow, amused. Because I like you. That's not an answer. It is. He studied me the way he did when he was about to crush a boardroom without raising his voice. I chased you for a long time. I blinked, stunned. You chased me? He hummed like that was obvious. You don't remember? I panicked and forced a laugh. Of course I remember. Then, because my brain was spiraling, I asked the question that had been burning a hole in me for months. What about Tyler? Ethan's gaze sharpened. What about him? How did we end? He tilted his head, almost genuinely puzzled. That's between you and him. Why would I know? I opened my mouth to respond, and he stepped closer, closing the distance like he owned it. You keep asking about my brother, he murmured. And you keep trying to distract yourself. I'm not. His fingers laced with mine, his eyes holding mine. You are. My throat went tight. Ethan. He didn't push me into anything. He didn't force anything. But he looked at me like he already knew every way I'd ever tried to run from what I wanted, and he was simply waiting for me to admit it. And then the dream shifted into that familiar haze, heat, closeness, the sense of being wanted so intensely it almost scared me. I woke up the next morning with my heart racing, my face burning, and an overwhelming sense of loss so sharp it felt like grief. And then Tyler knocked on my door like nothing had happened. "Get dressed," he snapped. "We're having people over. Barbecue thing. Don't embarrass me." It wasn't his family estate anymore in my head. It was Ethan's house. Ethan's space. Ethan's rules. And I was walking into it like a lamb. By afternoon, the backyard looked like a magazine spread: string lights, music, expensive grills, and way too many young, pretty people pretending they weren't intimidated by the fact that the man who owned everything might walk outside at any second. But the decorations weren't for Tyler's friends. They were for one person. Tiffany. She arrived like a scene designed to hurt me: white dress, glossy dark hair, soft voice, perfect smile. The kind of girl people wrote love songs about when they were 17 and stupid. And the worst part? She looked like me. Not exactly. Not a twin. But close enough that it made my skin prickle. Long dark hair. Pale, delicate kind of beauty. The sweet, harmless vibe that made guys want to be heroes. I felt Tyler's arm around my waist, but his attention wasn't even pretending to stay with me. His eyes were on her like he'd been starving and she'd finally walked into the room holding a plate. Oh. So that's what I was. A placeholder. A weapon. A prop. We sat down to eat, and the seating arrangement made it crueler. Tiffany across from Tyler. Ethan across from her too, talking calmly with that older, adult world energy: business, investments, travel. Conversations that made Tyler and his friends look like kids playing dress-up. I kept my head down and ate, quiet, trying not to shake. Tyler peeled shrimp, an entire plate of it. Then he slid it across the table. To Tiffany. "Here," he said, trying to sound casual. "I did it for you." Tiffany gave a small, polite smile. "Tyler, give it to your girlfriend. You're still so careless." Tyler's face tightened. "I'm not a kid anymore." Tiffany's voice turned warm, indulgent. Okay. You're grown." And I just sat there, smiling like a trained doll, because what else do you do when you're being humiliated in a mansion you don't belong in? But inside, something clicked into place with awful clarity. In my dreams, my future, Tyler wasn't in the picture. And now I knew why. Because Tiffany came back. And Tyler's loyalty went wherever his obsession went. My gaze drifted toward Ethan without meaning to. He was listening to Tiffany, calm and polite, the kind of man who never chased anyone who didn't want him. And yet, in my future, he chased me. For a long time. Why would a man like that chase me? I felt the urge to look away, but his eyes lifted at the exact wrong moment and caught me. It wasn't a warm look. It wasn't even friendly. It was a quiet, knowing stare that made my skin go tight. Like he could hear what I was thinking. A bottle appeared in front of me, an unopened drink. I blinked. Ethan's hand was there, steady, offering it like it was the most normal thing in the world. "Hydrate," he said, voice low. My brain short-circuited. My mouth moved before my dignity could tackle it to the ground. "Thanks. Husband. Can you open it for me?" The table went silent. Even the music seemed to drop a beat. Tyler looked like he'd been slapped. Tiffany's smile froze. A couple of Tyler's friends stared at me like I'd just set myself on fire. And Ethan. Ethan didn't flinch. He didn't look surprised. He simply took the bottle, twisted the cap open, and handed it back like I'd asked him to pass the salt. "No problem," he said softly. My entire soul left my body. I wanted to disappear. I wanted to melt into the patio furniture. But in the middle of my humiliation, I caught something else. Ethan's expression was still calm. Yet his eyes were darker. Like he was memorizing the sound of me saying it. Husband. That night, I fell asleep again. And I was back in the future. Ethan was in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, cooking like he belonged there. I stared, shocked. "You cook?" He glanced at me with that faintly amused look. "You said you wanted pineapple rice. Did you forget?" Of course I remember," I lied immediately. He stepped closer, studying my face the way a doctor would study a symptom. "Chloe," he said, voice turning serious. "What's wrong with you lately?" "Nothing," I insisted. His gaze narrowed. "You're acting like you don't remember basic things." My heart dropped. I'm just tired." He reached for my hand. "We're going to get you checked." "What?" "No." He was already moving like a decision had been made. Panic clawed up my throat, so I blurted the first ridiculous thought that popped into my head, because my brain was desperate to stall. What if I'm really losing it? Like, what if I'm not okay? Ethan's expression softened instantly. He pulled me into his arms and smoothed a hand over my hair, slow and steady. "We're married," he said. "If you're not okay, I'm still here. Who else would take care of you?" My eyes stung. I hated that his kindness hit harder than Tyler's money ever had. I sniffed and pushed, half joking, half terrified. "And if I'm a mess? Would you find someone else?" His mouth twitched. "You're asking that like you have the energy to be dramatic. Answer me." He sighed like I was impossible and kissed my forehead. "No," he said simply. "I'm not finding anyone else. I'm staying with you." It was the most solid thing I'd ever heard. I swallowed. "How did you know I was acting weird?" He looked at me like I was adorable and exhausting. "Because I know you," he said. "And also." He paused, and his eyes held mine. "Because you didn't chase me this time." I blinked. "I chased you?" He nodded. "You were the one who came for me first." My brain spun. That wasn't me. I wasn't bold. I wasn't the girl who chased powerful men. I was the girl who stayed quiet so she wouldn't get kicked out of her own life. Before I could process it, the dream snapped. And I woke up in my real dorm bed with my phone buzzing and my roommate's group chat lighting up about how I'd been doing laundry nonstop. I stared at the screen, mortified, because it was true. Every time I woke up, I felt like I'd been living someone else's life all night, and my body paid the price even if my brain tried to pretend it was just fantasy. A few days passed after the barbecue. Tyler didn't text. I didn't text. He was too busy orbiting Tiffany. I was too busy spiraling. And then Tyler announced a spring break road trip like it was a gift. 3 cars, he said. "My friends. Tiffany. You're coming." I should have said no. I should have ended it right there. But I didn't. Because the awful truth was, I wanted to see Ethan again. I wanted to know if the Ethan in my dreams and the Ethan in real life were the same man. We drove west, hours and hours of highway, playlists, and forced laughter. Tyler rode up front with Tiffany, talking nonstop like a desperate puppy trying to impress someone who'd already decided he wasn't worth the effort. I sat in the back, listening to music, pretending I wasn't watching Ethan through the rearview mirror. He caught my eyes once. Just once. And my stomach flipped so violently I had to look away. I fell asleep. And I was in the future again, sitting beside Ethan while he worked in his study. I stared at him, angry for reasons I couldn't explain. "What?" he asked, glancing up. "You're letting another woman sit in your passenger seat," I blurted. He paused, then patted his thigh like I belonged there. "Come here." I folded my arms. "No." He sighed like he'd dealt with me 100 times. "You're jealous." "I'm not." "You are." He leaned in, voice soft, coaxing. "You haven't chased me yet in your timeline, have you?" I froze. He smiled slowly. "That's why you're miserable. Because you keep watching from the sidelines." "I want the passenger seat," I muttered. "Then claim it," he murmured. I woke up at a rest stop with my face hot and my heart pounding. Everyone got out of the cars to grab snacks and use the bathroom. I stayed in the back seat, staring at my hands like they belonged to someone else. Do I chase him? Do I even have the right? I wasn't even broken up with Tyler yet. I was still technically his girlfriend, even if he treated me like luggage. The door opened. Ethan slid in, holding a bottle of water. "Drink," he said. I reached for it, and my fingers brushed his. Electric. That stupid, instant, ridiculous jolt. He didn't react. He just watched me like he was waiting for me to do something. So I did. Maybe it was sleep deprivation. Maybe it was the future bleeding into the present. Maybe I'd finally snapped. I grabbed his hand. Ethan's eyes widened for a fraction of a second, just enough to prove he wasn't made of stone. Then he recovered, expression smoothing back into calm. His brow lifted, like, "Are you sure?" My brain screamed, "No." My body said, "Yes." I leaned forward and kissed him. It wasn't sweet. It wasn't careful. It was impulsive, reckless, and the second my mouth touched his, I realized I'd been starving for something I didn't understand. Ethan went still, one heartbeat, two. Then his hand tightened around mine, and the air in the car changed. Not exploding. Not chaotic. Controlled. Like he'd been holding himself back for a long time, and now he was deciding whether to let go. I pulled away fast, breath shaking, because through the windshield I saw Tyler and Tiffany walking back. I sat down like nothing happened. Ethan didn't move. He just stared forward, jaw tight, eyes unreadable, like he was rearranging his entire reality behind his calm face. Tyler climbed in laughing about some dumb joke with Tiffany. He didn't notice my shaking hands. He didn't notice the fact that Ethan's knuckles were white around his water bottle. Because Tyler didn't notice me. Not really. We reached a scenic stop the next day, huge sky, red rock, tourists everywhere, everyone taking photos. Tyler demanded pictures with Tiffany like it was a performance. I stood off to the side, wanting to crawl into the earth. Tyler, maybe out of guilt or maybe out of ego, barked, "Ethan, take a photo with Chloe too." I stiffened. Ethan stepped beside me, close enough that I could feel the heat of him. "Chloe," Tyler snapped, "you're standing too far." Before I could move, Ethan's hand settled on my shoulder. His voice dropped near my ear, low and smooth. "Relax," he said softly. "Smile." It was exactly like my dream. The same calm. The same control. And then, as the camera clicked, his lips brushed my ear, so quick it could have been an accident. But it wasn't. My breath caught. He stepped away immediately, chatting with someone else like nothing had happened. I stood there, stunned, cheeks burning, heart racing. That night, in a shared hotel, Tiffany and I ended up in the same room. She was polite. Kind, even. The kind of girl who didn't have to be cruel because she was already winning. I showered, tried to calm my thoughts, tried to pretend my life wasn't collapsing. A knock sounded. I opened the door. Ethan stood there. My throat went tight. "Tiffany isn't here," I blurted, panicked. "I know," he said calmly. "I'm not here for her." He stepped inside, and the door closed behind him with a soft click that sounded way too final. I didn't have time to think. His hand braced against the door beside my head, and his gaze pinned me. "Why?" I whispered, voice shaking. "Why did you do that in the car?" Ethan's expression was controlled, but his eyes were not. "Because you did it first," he said. I wasn't thinking. "I know." That made my stomach drop. He moved closer, slow, deliberate, like he was giving me every chance to stop him. "Chloe," he murmured, "I'm not Tyler." "I know. I'm not going to play games." "I know." His thumb brushed my jaw, barely there, yet my whole body reacted like he'd grabbed me. "Then tell me what you want," he said. My mouth opened. Nothing came out. Because what I wanted was impossible. I wanted the man from my dreams. I wanted the future. I wanted to stop being the girl who survived by staying quiet. Ethan exhaled, like my silence answered him anyway. He kissed me. Not like Tyler would, careless, showy, cruel. Ethan kissed me like he was starving and trying not to scare me with how hungry he was. I clutched his shirt, dizzy, and when I finally pulled back, my voice came out shaky. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "About earlier. About everything." Ethan's mouth curved, faintly amused. "You're apologizing now?" "I'm trying to be a decent person." He gave a soft laugh, then looked at me with that unsettling, honest intensity again. "You wanted to test something," he said quietly. Did you get your answer? My cheeks burned. Yes. The Ethan from my dreams was real. And that was terrifying. The next day, it all fell apart in the ugliest, most predictable way. I got sick. Not a cute cold. Not a sniffle. I was weak, shaky, miserable, barely holding it together. Tiffany had a light cough. Tyler treated her like she was made of glass. He carried her bag. He bought her tea. He hovered like a devoted boyfriend. He didn't even look at me. People noticed. Even Tyler's friends, who loved drama, looked uncomfortable. Tiffany kept saying, I can help her, but Tyler acted like he couldn't hear. Ethan finally spoke, voice calm but unmistakably final. Tyler, he said. If you're going to take care of Tiffany, then do that. I'll take Chloe back. Tyler's face actually lit up, like Ethan had handed him a gift. Yeah. Okay, he said quickly. Thanks, bro. I wanted to scream. But Ethan didn't let me be humiliated. He pulled our bags himself. He guided me with a hand at my back, steadying me when my knees went weak, like my dignity mattered. In the car, he wrapped an arm around me and checked my forehead with the back of his fingers. Sleep, he murmured. You're safe. No one had said that to me in a long time. At the airport, he arranged everything without making me feel like a burden. Water. Medication. A quiet place to sit. A jacket draped over my shoulders. His palm smoothing my hair once, like a promise. I tried so hard not to cry. It didn't work. Tears spilled anyway, hot, humiliating, out of control. Ethan went instantly alert. Pain? Nausea? Tell me. I shook my head, wiping at my face like a kid. It's not that, I choked out. It's just. Your brother didn't even ask if I was okay. Ethan stared at me for a second, then his gaze softened into something I didn't know how to handle. He wiped my tears with his thumb, slow and careful, like he was learning me. Then he kissed me, gentle at first, then deeper, like he was pulling me back from the edge of something. When he finally eased away, my breath came out shaky. You'll get sick, I whispered. Then I get sick, he said calmly, like it was nothing. If it makes you stop looking like you're breaking. I leaned into his chest, stunned by the simple steadiness of him. Back in the city, he took me to a doctor. It wasn't serious, just exhaustion and a bug, but Ethan treated it like it mattered because I mattered. He brought me to his home afterward. Not Tyler's chaotic party house. Ethan's quiet, clean, controlled space, gray and black and minimal, like a man who didn't waste time on softness. And then Ethan did something that wrecked me. He made it soft anyway. He put me in the room next to his. He checked on me like a routine. He made food. Real food. He even showed up with a hair dryer after I showered, like he'd somehow predicted exactly what I'd do. Sit, he said simply, plugging it in. I sat. He dried my hair with slow patience, fingers careful through the strands, warm air washing over my scalp. I don't know when it happened, but I leaned forward and wrapped my arms around his waist, resting my forehead against him. The smell of him, clean, expensive, familiar in a way that made my chest ache, wrapped around me like a memory. My eyes slid shut. And I fell asleep like that. When I woke, he was in the kitchen like it was normal. Like I belonged in his house. You're up, he said, glancing over. Feeling better? I tried to stand tall. Yeah. I can walk. He hummed. I can hear that. The energy's back. He served me breakfast like he'd been doing it for years. And the longer I stayed, the more terrifying it became. Because I was happy. We watched movies on his couch. I leaned against him without thinking. He rested my head on his thigh like it was natural. And every time I looked up, his gaze would catch on my mouth like he was fighting instinct. I tried to be responsible. I don't want to get you sick, I whispered one night when he leaned in. I'm choosing this, he murmured against my lips. And then the world narrowed to him. Not explicit. Not messy. Just consuming. Like my body remembered him even when my brain tried to argue. At the end of the break, Ethan drove me back to campus. Before I could open the car door, his hand caught my wrist gently, and he kissed me like he wasn't letting me go without a mark. Then, low and calm, he asked the question that made my stomach drop. "When are you ending it with Tyler?" "I'm not trying to be," I started, breathless. I didn't want to break up over text." Ethan's mouth curved faintly. "Good. You're considerate." I got out of the car with my heart in my throat and a plan in my head. Except Tyler didn't give me time. He found me first. He showed up with big eyes and a rehearsed voice like he'd practiced in the mirror. "Chloe," he said, "I realized I was wrong. I thought I loved Tiffany, but I think I just loved the idea of her. We have nothing in common. You're the one I actually..." I lifted a hand. He stopped, confused. I looked at him, and the strangest calm settled over me. "I'm sorry," I said softly. "I thought I liked you too. Then I realized I liked the idea of you." His face cracked. "What?" "I'm breaking up with you," I said. "Take care." I turned and walked away before he could argue. My back felt lighter than it had in months. That night, I fell asleep. And for the first time, my dream wasn't just heat and hunger. It was Ethan, sitting beside me in the future, watching me with quiet satisfaction. "What are you so happy about?" he asked. I grinned, unable to help it. "Your brother finally got what he deserved." Ethan's expression tightened. "Tyler is an idiot." "He is." Ethan sighed, then tugged me closer. "He doesn't know what matters until it's gone." The next day, Tyler proved it. He showed up outside my dorm like a walking headline: expensive car, a huge bouquet of red roses, and a crowd gathering fast because college students can smell drama like blood in water. He shoved the flowers at me. "Chloe, I know I messed up. I'm pursuing you again. Forgive me." I stared at him, stunned by his audacity. He pointed at the car like it was a prize. "It's yours. The flowers too. Come on. Everyone's watching." My skin crawled. He grabbed my hand when I didn't move. "Let go," I hissed. "No," he snapped. "I'm making it clear you're mine." I looked down. My fingers were already turning red where he held me. Then another engine roared, closer, louder, sharper. A sleek pink sports car slid into the space like it owned the world. My heart jumped. The driver's door opened. Ethan stepped out. For a second, the entire crowd went silent, like even the air understood he outranked everyone here without trying. Tyler's face changed. "Ethan? Why are you?" Ethan's gaze dropped to Tyler's grip on my hand. His voice stayed calm. "Let go." Tyler actually did. Ethan stepped in front of me like a shield, his body blocking Tyler from my space. "Talk privately," Ethan said, voice even. "Don't corner someone in public. If one person doesn't want this, you're humiliating both of you." Tyler looked stunned, like no one had ever corrected him without fear. Ethan rested a hand lightly at my back and turned his head, voice soft just for me. "You okay?" I nodded, throat tight. "Come on," he murmured, and he guided me away through the parting crowd like he was escorting me out of a burning building. At the car, Ethan opened the driver's door and looked at me. "You drive?" My eyes widened. "Are you insane? What if I crash?" He blinked. "You have a license." Yeah, but..." Ethan's mouth curved. "Then drive." I slid in, hands shaking, adrenaline buzzing under my skin. The car smelled expensive and faintly sweet, like new leather and something floral. Ethan settled in beside me like he belonged there. As I pulled out, he exhaled quietly. "I'm sorry," he said. "Tyler asked me how to win a girl back. I thought he meant Tiffany." I glanced at him. "You gave him the car idea?" His gaze flicked to me. "I did." I laughed once, breathless. "That's actually hilarious." Ethan's hand lifted to my hair, fingers brushing gently over the top of my head. "This car was supposed to be for your birthday," he said, voice low. I didn't expect him to use it as a stunt. My heart squeezed. "Ethan." He watched me for a long moment. Do you like it? I smiled despite myself, cheeks warming. Of course I like it. It's beautiful. He nodded once, satisfied. Good. The silence that followed was heavy, charged, honest. I swallowed. So, what are we? Ethan's gaze held mine, calm and unwavering. What do you want to be? He asked. My voice came out small. Your girlfriend. Ethan's expression softened, just slightly. Then that's what you are, he said. If you choose me. I choose you, I whispered, and it felt like stepping into sunlight. Tyler found us anyway. He was waiting later, eyes wild, like the world had betrayed him. Chloe, he snapped, you're picking him? You're picking an older guy because he has money? Ethan's head tilted. I'm 27. Tyler's face twisted. That's old. Ethan's mouth curved, faintly mocking. You'll survive. Tyler looked at me, desperate. Tell me. Say it. My hands were shaking, but my voice wasn't. I like Ethan, I said. And if it wasn't for him, I would have left you sooner. Tyler's face went blank, like the words had emptied him out. He stormed off like a child throwing a tantrum, and for the first time, I didn't chase him. Ethan squeezed my hand, calm and steady. Don't feel guilty, he murmured. He only wants what he can't have. That night, I dreamed again. I was in the future, and Ethan was stepping out of the shower, towel around his waist, hair damp, looking like my brain had invented him just to torture me. He saw me and smiled like he'd been waiting. You're here, he murmured. And you look happy. We're together, I said, grinning like an idiot. You and the younger me. Ethan's hand settled on my head, gentle. Good. I tugged his hand down and laced my fingers with his. Then my smile faltered as something strange hit me. A bruise. On my shin. A real bruise? Not a dream bruise. The kind you get from smacking into your dorm chair when you're running late. I stared at it. Ethan followed my gaze, and for the first time, he looked genuinely surprised. Because until now, every time I visited the future, it felt like I was borrowing my future body. But tonight, I had my own. I looked up, breath catching. Where is the future me? Ethan's eyes sharpened, thoughtful. That's interesting. The next day, in real life, I woke up in my dorm bed like always. But when I fell asleep again, I didn't land neatly in the same place. I landed in something that felt slightly wrong. Familiar, but off. A parallel version of the future, where details didn't line up perfectly. And suddenly, it wasn't just me moving between times. It was us. Two versions of me. Two versions of Ethan. And when we finally came face to face, me standing in a room with Ethan, and another Chloe stepping in like she was my reflection with different eyes, I realized something that made my stomach turn. We weren't just peeking at the future. We were crossing into other versions of it. Worlds where we made different choices. Worlds where we said different words. Worlds where consequences shifted like sand. It should have scared me away. But Ethan, both Ethans, looked at me like I was still his. Like whatever universe we were in, he'd find me anyway. And the most terrifying part was this. Even with all the confusion, all the wrongness, all the guilt that clawed at me when I woke up. Every time I saw him, in any version of any life, my body still recognized him. Like fate had carved his name into my bones. And no matter how hard I tried to be good, or careful, or responsible. No matter how much my brain screamed that I should stop, that I should run, that I should pretend I wasn't the kind of girl who chased. The truth stayed the same. I didn't just dream about Ethan. I belonged to him. And once I finally admitted it, I didn't want to wake up.